Tucker, what do you think? We're talking about the #1 story in America, as surprisingly, it now is the Clinton cash. And it was revealed yesterday that the Associated Press, I think they worked for years trying to get the Clinton Foundation and the Secretary of State, former Secretary of State, to reveal, who she met with. As it turns out, that about half the people she met with or talked to on the phone actually gave money to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
We should have known about this from the press, but for the most part, the press has just given the Clintons a pass. And this goes back
we got it from
decades.
the AP, right?
No, but the AP tried to get that information, Tucker, 3 years ago. They were stonewalled, and now, after suing, they finally got the information.
Well, the AP is not the only news organization in the world, and by the way, good for them. It's a shocking story, and it puts into stark relief the corruption of the Clinton Foundation and the nexus between that and the State Department. But here, it's a bigger story in two fronts. First, it discredits not simply Hillary Clinton, but the U.S. government. America is great because it's not corrupt. That's why people come here, because it's an island of honest government in a global sea of corruption. And this discredits that. It is clear from this and a bunch of other stories that have broken in the last couple of months that Hillary Clinton was selling access to the U.S. government while Secretary of State. The second point it makes is that the press has proven incapable of covering Hillary. Hillary Clinton is up in the polls as of this morning. So the question is, in less than 80 days, if she's elected president, how is a press corps, which is rooting for her in the most partisan possible way, going to cover a Hillary Clinton administration?
It's unbelievable. And Tucker, I'll add a couple of things. We have not, it's amazing when Donald Trump does not make the news in negative ways, people are able to look at Hillary Clinton. For a long time,
that's right.
He's been swamping her bad news and doing her a huge favor. But Brian Fallon pushed back on the stats that Steve just said. He said it's outrageous to misrepresent Secretary Clinton's basis for meetings with these individuals. He called it a distorted portrayal of how often she crossed paths with individuals connected to the charitable donations to the Clinton Foundation.
And it's distorted because they did not release all of the records. They only released half of them. If Brian Fallon's got a problem with that, just release all the records.
Well, then let's get specific. Then in the case, for example, of like an Indonesian businessman who is referred to Hillary Clinton's office by Doug Band, who's her husband's body man and longtime aide at the Clinton Foundation, when Houman Abedin takes the email and sets up that meeting, what's the other basis for that meeting? I mean, there are billions of people in the world, but she meets 55% of the people she meets with donated to her family's foundation. I mean, like, what's the explanation? And they haven't proffered one.
Tucker, if you ask James Carville, who we're going to have later on the show, he's a big supporter of the Clintons. He says that if the foundation is shut down, like Donald Trump has suggested, then people are going to die. But if you look at the stats, in 2013, the Clinton Foundation raised $140 million. They only spent $9 million on direct grants.
That's the number right there. That's exactly right, Ainsley. That is the number right there. Out of $140 million, according to their tax returns, $9 million went to direct grants. So the point isn't simply that it's corrupt, it's that it's ineffective. It's a bad charity. If you had a choice between giving to the Clinton Foundation or the tens of thousands of other charities around the world, why would you give to that one, which has a less reliable rate of helping people than almost any other I've ever heard of?
What's the number that you kind of look for?
Scam.
You want to look for like 85%? You want the money that the charity makes to go back to the people.
So you should ask James, whom I love, name specific ways that the Clinton Foundation has actually helped people, not just convincing drug companies to lower the rate on AIDS drugs, but what aid have they directly given to the needy, the suffering, the sick in this world? And I'll bet you'll get a blank stare.
Tucker, this all reminds us, and you're old enough to remember when Bill Clinton and his administration sold off the Lincoln bedroom to donors and stuff like that.
Very well.
Should this really surprise us? This is all about access, just as that was. Only back in those days, it was just millions of dollars. Now we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes, but see, the tragedy is it's not just about the Clintons. It's about the rest of us. It's our government. The legacy we can be most proud of is the legacy of clean government. Again, that's what makes us distinct in the world. And they're polluting it to their benefit.
It's something. Meanwhile, somebody had a smartphone out and took a picture during a training session at the Army. What they did was they had different threats to our national security regarding cyber. Who is a threat? These are some of the insiders. You've got Nadal Hassan, you've got now Chelsea Manning, Snowden, the Navy Yard shooter, you've got David Petraeus. And then they put up a picture of Hillary Clinton as an insider threat to our national security. And apparently this is an actual still image from that particular presentation.
I think the point they're making is that if elected, she'll pack the Supreme Court, turning it to the left for generations, and throw open the borders to the rest of the world, and that's a direct threat.
Right.
I think that may have been the point they were... It's obviously a mistake. But look, if we did this, if Fox News had put up that graphic, can you imagine? There would be a State Department investigation. There would be the FCC, you know, every alphabet soup agency in America would be looking at Fox. If we did that. Glad we didn't.
Tucker, the thing is, though, what she did was so egregious, they want to make sure nobody else in the Army who handles intelligence handles things like that. That wasn't an official move. It was somebody trying to get a point across. Hey, real quick, Tucker, before we let you go, Reince Priebus came out last night. We know he's rooting for Donald Trump, but he said that by Labor Day, this thing will be tied. Do you agree?
You know, it's entirely possible. I mean, this is the phenomenon that I've experienced. You probably have, too. You meet people who either don't know a single person who's voting for Hillary or don't know a single person who's voting for Donald Trump. And that's kind of it. Everybody in our world, in the media, in government, in politics, lives in neighborhoods where not a single person is voting for Donald Trump. Now, does that distort the outcome of our predictions? Yeah, it probably does. To what extent? I don't know. But I think the actual number is probably a little different from the numbers we're seeing.
Yeah, well, politics can change in the drop of a hat. So if he has a few more good weeks, Labor Day is, what, a week and a half away?
Right. And if the press continues to push the Clintons on the Clinton cash,
it's possible.
It could take a toll.
It's not the press, it's the AP.
Right.
You know, the New York Times,
Good
the
point.
Washington
Don't worry
Post. No
about
one else is paying any attention.
It's actually on the cover of the Washington Post today, so, you know, progress.
Yeah, don't worry. Her emails are so boring, she's embarrassed.
Right.
I saw her on Jimmy
And
Kimmel.
all their conversations are about grandkids.
Yeah, it's
And if you need a jar of
yoga.
pickles open, she can do it.
All right. Tucker, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.